We need to have a very clear understanding of this idea of going out and looking at the market, looking at the site, and looking at the financial aspects of business. If it passes those tests, if we feel that it has passed those tests, then we can move on to the business plan. And the business plan is really one of the core things that all businesses are based on. If we recall back when we looked at Dean Simon, Dean did not have really a good solid business plan. In other words, people could not physically sit down and read how that business was going to make money, which put a lot of people off and made it very difficult for them to get loans and these sorts of things. And the same thing would happen in any business that you would own without a business plan. So a business plan is a helpful tool for you as a planning document, and for people who are going to loan money to you or invest in you as a sales pitch. So it works as a sales pitch and a plan for you. It doubles it up. What I've done here is I have taken an example business plan that was in a textbook, and it was called Little Bites Grill. Another textbook that we use by Walter Good. This is a simple business plan for a simple, typical small business called Little Bites Grill. So in this particular instance, your idea is to build a little grill and open it up. So it's a restaurant, basically. So let's look at how this business plan is laid out. First and foremost, we have in the table of contents, we have something called a mission statement. Now, a mission statement is really just what do we do, why do we exist, who do we sell to. So the mission is to be the leading alternative to traditional fast food restaurants, offering healthy and flavorful meals in a quick service format. So it's fast food, quality food, healthy and flavorful. So it's a restaurant. It's a restaurant that is more into lettuce and things than anything else. Okay, so a mission statement is a very quick summary, usually in one line, like this here, that summarizes what the business is. And oftentimes you will find that to be one of the first items in a business plan. I should say I overstepped. I went a little bit quicker than I should have. The business plan, as it sits on someone's desk. Now, I'm talking about a traditional paper-written business plan that someone looks at. I agree that we're moving into a more electronic age. People are normally looking at things on screen now. But traditionally, in small business, in Newfoundland and Labrador, in rural Newfoundland and Labrador, you got to make it look good. And it got to have these essential elements. So we're thinking more paper than anything else. People need to know, as it's sat on their desk, what this is. And here it is. Little Bites Grill, the business plan. You know instantly by looking at the cover here that this is for a little restaurant and that it is a business plan. So that cover page is essential at kind of conveying that bit of information. And part and parcel of the cover page could be this information right here, which is who, what, where, when, and why. Who is it? Okay. So another important part of any business plan that would come immediately after is who's managing the company. Who is this company? And that's important because the people who manage that company darn well should have some knowledge of the business they're getting into. If I know nothing about cooking, making a restaurant work, I'm probably not the best person to be putting my name attached to this business plan. So the company management really need to demonstrate that whoever is managing this has an idea how to make such an operation work. So let's go take a look at the company management. Company management is Bill Benson and Leonard Burgess. There's two. They get to share it. This person is the president. He manages operations in dollars. He owns all of it. And this guy, Leonard Burgess, is the restaurant manager. Now, one of the things that I would suggest here is that anyone who's loaning money to this business is probably going to ask one question. is Leonard Burgess going to stay? Because if Bill Benson knows nothing about this business other than supply the money for it, he's relying on this guy here to know everything and anything there is to know about running a restaurant. If he were to leave tomorrow, would Bill Benson be able to carry on with this? So you want to be able to demonstrate in the company management that the people who are signed off here are knowledgeable about the type of business that is noted here. Okay. Now, in addition, in this case, besides company management, we have what's called an advisory team. And again, we're asking that very same question. Do the people that are the advisors know anything about this business? Can they bring any value to the business? So we got Bonnie, who's finance. She's a banker. Gordon, who's an accountant. Lorena, I gotta be able to pronounce her name. She's director of marketing, so she has some marketing credentials. And Jan Rowland's a lawyer. So it's always good. Look, we got bankers, accountants, and lawyers. And we got one person who knows how to communicate the business. So, that way as well, because these people are the professionals who will help make this a success. And that's important to be able to list them out. Now, the next section, which is really critical in all these, is something called an executive summary. This is always done last, but it appears first. Okay. The executive summary is no more than 2 pages. And it really, well, this one here is how long? 1 page. I'm using the word pages. I should be saying 500 words or less or something like that. What it needs to be able to do is succinctly sum up everything that is in this plan in a very short, a Reader's Digest version of it. So this is a condensed version of the business plan right here. And why is it called an executive summary? Well, the reason it's an executive summary is someone who's executive will read this much of this plan. So they will open up, they'll see it on the desk, and the first thing that catches their eye is the name and that bit of information that we saw there. So that's attracted their interest. Now you got to get them to crack the cover. So they crack the cover. They see the table of contents, which shows that it's a fulsome document. And then they're going to go and say, okay, I want to know everything there is to know about this in 1 minute, because that's all I've got. I'm going to give this 1 minute. That executive summary is the sales pitch for that business. It needs to include all of the things that is in the rest of the business plan in a very succinct, short document that when someone reads it, they will A, have an idea what the business is, and B, be able to generate some questions and want to continue reading. Okay? In order to do this, you need to do it at the end, because you need to do the full business plan in order to be able to summarize it. That's effectively the thing, even though it does appear first in the document. So you're going to see the executive summary, and that's critical in all of these. The rest of it, that's going down from Little Bites Grilled, market analysis, marketing plan, management team, operations plan, invitation schedule, and financial plan. And they have risk factors in here as well. The rest of it is really this executive summary fleshed out. And it gives a good overview of these key headings. And all business plans should have these key headings. Here's the business. Here's a market analysis. Here's the plan in order to execute that market analysis. Here's the people that are going to do that, what their backgrounds are. Once it's up and running, this is how it's going to work, the operations plan. And then we run into what is the timeline, the implementation schedule. Always at the end, we deal with the financials. How is this going to make money? So we've got how much money is the owner going to put in? How much money are they looking for? Because most people are going to read this are going to be banks or financial people. So they're going to be, once you've read all that, and you say, how much money are you really looking for? Also, these things tend to include some risk analysis, which is what is the chances of problems and what are we going to do about it. So not only is it identifying the problems, but what are some of the things we're going to put in place in order to manage those problems. And here they got a divestiture or a harvest strategy, basically how are we going to sell this, or if things go bad. And there's a bibliography which deals where all the secondary data came from, and appendices, which is normally where there were surveys or things done that are not pertinent to the overall business plan but help explain where the information came from. That's where that would go. So these are the types of things that you will find in every single business plan. If you look at different business plans, there's lots out there online, so there's no sweat to find lots of examples of business plans. They all tend to have a very similar format, not necessarily the same format, but they will all have these essential ingredients. The opening, which is the cover page and what the business is all about. An executive summary, which summarizes the whole darn thing. The body of the business plan, which looks at the external market and how the internal plan is going to capitalize on the external market. So that would include things like the marketing plan, the management team. So this marketing plan actually could be a standalone document. This is how we're going to market this. The operation plan is how we're going to operate this business in order to maximize the money that you're going to invest. So this is really relying on that. When we did that feasibility analysis, I say this is the information that you really gathered up in the feasibility analysis to put it in place. And the financial plan, which is really looking at a lot of spreadsheets, which are not only looking at your, for example, your income projections and your revenue, your expenses projections. This is going to be like cash flow analysis and a lot of things here that are going to demonstrate how much money is going to cost you, how much money is going to make, how much money you're going to need, and when you're going to need that money in order to make the business a success. So the business plan plays a critical role in moving a good idea forward. So at this stage of the assignment that I'm asking you to do is really, here's your good idea, now you need to move it forward. So that feasibility study and the assignment is really prove that it's a good idea. In searching and writing it, you need to get you're going to take what you would consider a feasible idea that you've assessed with your feasibility analysis and prove its worth. So the business plan development process forces you to think ahead and put a route in place to avoid many of the potential pitfalls that normally occur if we don't have a good plan. And we saw in the Dean Simon case that he had lots of pitfalls because he just did not have a solid plan. So a typical business plan really creates a document that's somewhere in the 25 to 35 pages long. It's not ridiculously long, but it's fulsome too. And it gives the reader a clear description of what the new business intends to accomplish and how it plans to accomplish it. For most new ventures, the business plan is used both inside the organization as a planning tool and outside the organization as a marketing tool. So we need to think about both of those viewers when you're writing a business plan. Inside, it's for you to look as a roadmap to your success. For people outside the organization, it is a marketing tool to say, this is worth investing in. It becomes a selling document. So business plan precisely defines your business, identifies the business goals, serves as a form of a firm's resume. You could think of it as a resume for a firm. It helps you allocate resources properly, handle unforeseen complications or anticipate unforeseen complications, and make proper decisions. Additionally, you can tell your sales personnel, suppliers, and others what your goals are, and that will help them give some degree of confidence that you're going to be successful. So a business plan is important really for a couple of reasons. First, the business plan, as I say, is an internal planning document that's very useful to you. Second, it's a selling document, and that is going to be critical if you're going to raise the necessary funds in order to get the business off the ground. So the business plan has multiple uses. In the case of the Little Bites Grill example here, I have taken each of the components and I've laid them into here and kind of made some comments with regards to what you need to do for your business plan. So for example, the Little Bites Grill starts off with the cover page. And the cover page really needs to include these types of things. What's the name of the business? What's the name of the document? In other words, the word business plan has to be written on it somewhere so someone knows it's a business plan. Again, it's laying on a desk. They got to not think too hard about what this is that they're looking at. The date of preparation, that's going to be important because you're going to have several iterations of your business plan. This first iteration in a normal business planning process will not be your final. The business plan is a living document. It changes over time. The date on it, the revision number, these sorts of things would certainly give you an indication of where this particular one that you printed off is relative to the newest one. Should include the contact information for the business, the name, the address, and so on. And the individual who is championing this has to be there. Who is it that is pushing this business idea? If you don't know who the person behind it is, that could have as much negative impact as not having the name of the business on it. The second page of a business plan, or as you open up that cover, you're generally looking at this, and this is called the table of contents. The reason the table of contents is so important is because if someone doesn't have a lot of time, and you keep in mind that someone's going to be reading this, and they're going to think, well, I got to spend 15 minutes, 20 minutes reading this now. I don't want to do that. They're not interested in this. You have to capture their interest. So one way that you can help capture their interest is point them towards the important, pertinent sections from their perspective, because people, again, will have different interests in looking at the business plan. You as a planning, you using it as a planning tool for your business will have certain key things. People who want to invest want to look at the financials. People who are your suppliers want to know if you got some plans set up for your marketing. So depending on who the viewer is, they're going to look at different parts of the plan more closely, we'll say. So this table of contents allows them to find where these relevant sections are and go to them very quickly. So it avoids aimless searching. The table of contents should include a list of major topics in the plan and their respective page numbers. Next, it's the most important part of the plan. The executive summary is what most people will read. They might not ever go past there, but that's the thing that most people are going to read. So it has to be well written and it has to be concise, because what the executive summary is, it is a summary of everything that comes after it. So effectively, if the document is 35 pages long, it summarizes the 35 pages into 1 or 2 pages. So someone can read it very, very quickly. So it is really the sales pitch that we're dealing with here in the assignment 1. The sales pitch is really caught up in that executive summary. So the executive summary is a short overview of the entire business plan. It provides a busy reader with everything he or she needs to know about the new venture's distinct nature. Along with the executive summary appears, although the executive summary appears at the beginning of the document, it is normally prepared last. So after you've done your business plan, then you write the executive summary and you insert it into the front end. Not all business plans have a mission statement, but all business plans have a basic paragraph that says this is what this business does and this is who it does it to. And this is what the mission vision statement section is really all about. It is a effective, quick and dirty, quick, simple, here's what we do, here's who we do it to. The best effective way to introduce the business is to describe the opportunity to the entrepreneur that is identified, that is the problem to be solved or what needs to be filled. Then describe how the business plans to address that issue. So it's really a vision for what the company is going to look like as it moves forward. So for example, in the case of Little Bites, it's going to be the leading alternative and traditional fast food restaurant offering healthy and flavorful meals in a quick service format. Once you've done the kind of a, here's what we're about, you're going to give a little bit of a brief history. Now, if your business is brand new, you say, well, it doesn't have any history. True, that's true. But where did the idea come from? How did you get to where you are right now, effectively? So an existing business, you need to write the history. For a new business, you just want to say, where did the basic idea come from? So in this particular case, Little Bites Grill is an incorporated business that plans to develop a chain of corporate-owned restaurants, caring for busy, health-conscious professionals and vegetarians. Presently, the fast food outlets are underservicing the rapidly growing market segments with very limited product offerings. The LBG version, Little Bites vision, is to exploit the opportunity by developing a premium quick service menu offering a wide variety of items. So this is kind of like laying out the background on what the business is. Next, we look out into the world and we say, okay, what is the industry analysis? What is the industry that this business is operating in? How is that industry going to either help or hinder this business grow? So this section should begin with a discussion of major trends in the industry in which the firm intends to compete, along with important characteristics of the industry, such as its size, attractiveness, profit potential. There's an industry feasibility analysis that is being done. So this is actually your next assignment, to look at the feasibility analysis. And after reading the industry analysis, investors should have a good grasp of the future prospects for this industry, let alone this business within the industry, but this industry, along with an understanding of the target market that the firm hopes to pursue. So this section should also outline the basic goals and objectives for the business. The business analysis should provide measurable outcomes. This is where we get into SMART goals, specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time-bound. So we're looking at when is it going to happen, who's going to make it happen, and the how it's going to happen. The next major component that we need to look at is the concept and strategy. So when we looked at the previous one, it was really focusing on the industry, which is the external world. This one really looks at the business itself. So we're looking inward now. We're saying, okay, how can our business set itself up to take advantage of the opportunity discovered out there in the outside world? So the business strategy will outline how the goals and objectives will be achieved. It will attempt to explain how the business will successfully compete in its chosen market and against its competitors. Reviewers of this section will be looking for how the company plans to attain competitive advantage. How you can do it better than anyone else. Sell the reader on how the business will look unique in the eyes of the customers. So what makes it stand out? The marketing strategy is a time when you detail the reasons you believe there's a real market for your product. Outline the substantive things that you have, back it up to say that I believe that this will meet the needs of this chosen target market. This is especially important to develop a clear understanding of the market size and the market trend. So the market strategies also include section details in which it details your pricing strategy. Where's your price coming from? How much you can charge? Your sales and distribution plan, and your advertising and promotion plan. So it looks at that, really those elements of the 4 Ps: the price, the place, the product, and the promotion. So that's an important section. Once we've got that taken care of, then we move off to a basic description of the product and service. What is it that you're actually selling? So this section follows the industry analysis and should provide detail of the firm's product and or service. This section of the business plan typically is carefully scrutinized. Someone's going to look at this really hard because you said you got a competitive advantage. They want to check it to prove it. So it's very important to investors in particular to be confident that a new venture has a product that people will buy and has a realistic plan for getting it into their hands. The section should begin with a fuller description of the product, the firm that will sell it, and be provided that has been provided in the previous sections. The results of the feasibility analysis should be reported, including the results of the concept test. We're also going to be looking at, in terms of the description of the product or service, we're going to be looking at what is the market out there. How are you going to compete in this? How big is the market? What is the estimated sales? You start moving in some numbers here and say, okay, look, how can I legitimize this? Is it possible, if there is a market out there, that I can actually generate enough money to pay for the business and make money on it? So you need to worry about that. You're also going to be working on a competitive analysis. Who are your competitors? Where are they in the market? What are their advantages? What are their weaknesses? So it's vital importance to consider competition when developing business plans. It's essential that potential owners, investors, and other stakeholders appreciate that the business understands that their competitors are there and they need to be considered. This section of the business has an opportunity to explain how and why it will be able to compete with its competitors. Next. One thing to say all that, then you got to say, well, who's going to make all that happen? So the management team includes the marketing team, I would imagine. The management team needs to be in congruence with the product. For example, if you say you're going to be making steel girders, let's assume that your business is going to be in the steel making business, yet the owners or the management team know nothing about steel making, that's not a good fit. That's not going to go over well. So you want to make sure that your management team has the necessary skills and abilities to move the product idea forward. So one of the most important things investors want to see in reviewing the viability of a new venture is the strength of the management team. The material in this section should include a brief summary of the qualifications of each of the key members and make sure that it lines up with the needs of the business, including how his or her relevant employment, professional experiences, significant accomplishment, and educational background would help facilitate business growth. It's also important to show the financial obligations of the management team in the venture. How much is it going to cost? So then you get down to the nitty-gritty in a business plan, which is really operations. And that is, how are you going to physically operate this business? It's much more detailed in terms of, this is how we cook hamburgers, that sort of thing, if you got a hamburger business. So it deals with the day-to-day operations of the business. So this is, the devil is always in the details, and this is really a detailed section. How are you going to make the business successful? So what form of ownership? What's the store going to look like? What's the building going to look like? If you got a production facility, what's the flow going to look like? These sorts of things need to be in there. And you can see here that they've talked about their location, their facilities, their equipment, their supply chain, human resources, which is people, their regulatory requirements, what's needed to be done, and their insurance plan, risk analysis. At the end of the business plan, or I'm going to say, the last major component is the financial analysis. And that's where you say, okay, 2 + 2 = 4, and 4 is enough. So you need to be able to prove here in terms of the numbers and your projected sales that you could actually make money with this business. So the financial section of the business plan must demonstrate financial viability. Careful reader of the plan will scrutinize this section. Should include financial projections, which are intended to demonstrate the financial viability of the firm. Financial projections should include 3 to 5 years of pro forma income statements, and pro forma income statements is really projected income statements, projected balance sheets, and a statement of cash flows. We're going to get into the detail in this as we move a little bit further along. So you can see that these are normally put in as spreadsheets that demonstrate how the business is going to move ahead. Sometimes, too, we have what's called an investment proposal, which is a statement that we want $1 million, or we need 6 investors that can supply $1 million. So effectively, it is the explanation of the type of funding that's needed and who's going to provide it and how many investors you need. Really, it's the sources and uses of funds. Finally, all business plans have an appendix, which is like any surveys that were done or documents that are not pertinent to the actual detail, but how you got the detail. So any of the information that you collect, using primary data sources such as a observation or a survey would have to get put into the appendix. So those tend to be the key components of all business plans. On this very last slide, I have a whole bunch of links there to business plans. There's lots of business plan models out there. I'd like you to take a look at some of them. You'll find that they're all of a similar format. And they all contain these essential ingredients, or most of them contain these essential ingredients, depending on the type of the business.